Okay, thanks. Did all the fire guys leave? I was hoping to catch him. Thanks for what you guys do. I wouldn't even be here if it weren't for the fire department in my hometown. And I'm going to tease just a little bit of that in a minute, but let me just give me 1 second to plug my laptop in. Okay, you guys hear me all right? Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate the invitation and meeting a group of fellow EAA folks, and I assume other people too. Who's from EAA? Okay, and everyone else is from another group? Fantastic. Just so you have a sense of who I am, I'm just a private pilot. I do it because I love flying, and I have been wanting to fly a seaplane my whole life, so I'm finally doing that. It's really fun. And today's talk is just to give you a taste of that. Any seaplane pilots in the group?
Wannabes.
3? Oh, good. I like wannabes. 3 of them, okay. I want to hear what you guys got.
I got 500 hours in the Colonial Skimmer.
A colonial skimmer.
The predecessor to the late Buccaneer.
Ah, cool. Excellent, excellent. There was a third. Oh, cool, okay. All right.
I got a seaplane landing in Alaska.
Oh, cool, okay.
Just to see if I could get it.
Always good to have some seaplane pilots in the group too. Since I have a light sport aircraft, I chose to do the LSA version of the seaplane rating. It's an endorsement. That's what the LSA airplane single engine C is. And then I earned my repairman certificate, which is pretty cool because it's kind of like being an A&P, but in light sport. And it's a lot less time and effort to get the license to learn. So now I can do the work on my airplane and sign off on it as long as I've been trained on various aspects of the work. And then, as Ken said, I started the EAA Chapter in Oakland to help us build some community down there. Outside of flying for fun, I managed to bring aviation into my work, sort of subversively. I do coaching for managers and team leaders and help them develop their teams. But I love using aviation in the way we think and practice in aviation for helping people think through that process. And for example, angle of attack is an incredible mental tool for helping you think about the way you're driving a team or driving a business. And I won't go into it, but I'd love to. So today I want to talk about flying the Super Petrel. I don't know how much time we have. If we're running out of time, you guys tell me. I thought I'd do 3 things. One is we'll start with aviation is life. Does anybody know that expression from Ted Lasso? Football is life? Yeah, a couple of nods. Anyway, I wanted to just share a little bit about why I love it and why it's been so energizing and motivating in the best of times, but also give you a little taste of why it was so important for me, and in many ways helped save my life through a really difficult time. And then I'll tell you a little bit about the aircraft itself and why, of all the different types of seaplanes you could get, I'm really enchanted with light sport and wanted to share a little about that. And if we have time, I'll just show you a couple-minute video that gives you more of a taste of what the experience is like. So this is my aircraft through kind of a fisheye lens. That's why it looks a little distorted. And I think it's pure fun. Does anybody know where this picture was taken? Oh, yeah. I don't know if you can see it in the back. I gotta time that better and get my arm up there first. Let's just start off with no talking, but just a moment of what it's like. Hopefully you'll be able to hear it. Don't we have incredible landscape in California for flying seaplanes? Well, one thing I love about flying this particular airplane is you can do 360s on the water. Not much difficulty. Okay, just give you a taste. It's fun, right? It's really, really, really fun. Oh, thanks. It's really fun. And that's kind of the whole point of it. I think in aviation, sometimes we get into conversations, and I enjoy them too, about technology or practices or all this stuff. To me, in the end, it all has to add up to fun, especially since I'm not doing it professionally, I'm doing it as a private pilot. So this was how it came about for me. I convinced the company to bring the aircraft that I was buying to Oshkosh for AirVenture in 2018 and use it as their display model. And I grew up right near Oshkosh. So for me, this was great. It was there, I had my family come check it out. And then afterward, I flew from Oshkosh to my hometown, which is only about a half hour away. And when it was time to take the plane out, there's a long circuitous path they wanted us to take, to get out to the runway. And the chief pilot for Super Petrel and I were looking at each other like, nah, let's take the shortcut right through Boeing Plaza and get out of here. Which we did, but I thought this picture was awesome. I had to stop and take the picture with the C5 that were, the engine I think was bigger than my airplane. Ken kind of teased my talk by mentioning in that email how I'm trying to get to all the waters in California. So this is a listing I made from the Seaplane Association's water landing directory, and it shows all the bodies of water that are open or open with some kind of restrictions. And all the Y's suggest that indicates that I've been to those lakes. And there are just a couple I haven't been to yet. Ruth Reservoir, which is up in the mountains, kind of north. Yeah. I don't know how big that is. It looks little on a map, so I'm not sure. Loon Lake, I'm looking forward to that. Eureka Slough, that whole area I haven't been to yet. And Spicer Meadow might be a little risky. It's really tiny. And but we're so fortunate right here in the Bay Area. There are incredible places to fly. And one of my most frequent is to go up to Lake Berryessa. So you get to fly in the lake, but you also can practice canyon flying because of the kind of crenulations in the way the terrain is set up so the water flows around. It's like flying a canyon. You have to be very, very careful when you do it. But when you do, it looks something like this. This is a time lapse with a friend of mine who I just took off, and I'm flying here at about 100 feet or so, practicing canyon flying. It's a blast. It's a blast, and a lot of boats, so you have to be very careful of that. But also knowing where the telephone line, the power lines are, knowing which canyons are blind canyons, so you don't get into trouble, like that one aircraft did from Icon a couple years ago. Some of the fun things you can do with a seaplane, right? I had friends who had a family cabin up at Lake Almanor. Anybody been up to Lake Almanor? It's a really pretty area, a little airport on the side of it, right? And so they were gonna be there, and I said, I'll tell you what, I'll fly up and I'll give rides. So my buddy just hung out along the beach, and when I'd putter in, he'd catch me. I shut the engine down and coast in. He'd spin me around, someone new would hop in, go give him a ride, and just rinse and repeat. This is Cherry Lake, which is a reservoir up kind of near Hetch Hetchy. It's just a little northwest of Hetch Hetchy. It's very remote, but there are tons of places up in the Sierra that are not very far to get to, really. They're just really beautiful. And of course, when you're going cross countries, this opens up a whole other world of fun and also safety, just knowing you could land on water if you had to make an emergency landing. And coming back from Oshkosh one year, I saw a seaplane base with my name on it. It said Frank's Seaplane Base. I'm like, I gotta check that out, what is that? So I noticed it was on a lake that some extended family of mine lived on. I called them up and said, do you guys know who owns this thing. It turned out it was them. So I got to beach the plane and camp in their little cabin there. And look, this was my view out the window of the cabin. So, okay, so why did I call this Aviation is Life? Well, this is Danny Roja from Ted Lasso. I think Danny looks like he's sporting an aviation kind of gesture here. He's been flying around. Gear up for water. But I had a pretty intense trip to Oshkosh, or attempted trip to Oshkosh in 2021. Partly to go to AirVenture, partly to see my family. And you guys might remember, it just seems very weird synchronicity that you guys are here today. This was a particularly tough year. Right around the time of AirVenture, everybody's flying across the country, and everything was on fire. I mean, from the moment I took off and got just past a little of the Central Valley, it was just fire the whole way. And smoke just going everywhere. And it got worse and worse and worse. And I mean, this is one of my days flying, those are mountains, right? I'm flying through mountains in Idaho. Not sweet. But this says something about our feeble ability to assess risk as humans. We have to have a lot of humility, because what's risky? If you're doing the right things and mitigating it, seemingly risky things aren't always. And I made it. I did just fine in 16 hours of flying, visiting people, seeing things. It's about 1,800 nautical miles to get there. Got back to my hometown, saw my parents. But what was risky on that trip? Well, I took my dad out for dinner for his birthday.
That's risky.
Well, and that's what happened. We after dinner went to his house, and he turned on the dryer, and we got just engulfed in a blast. Took 12 fire departments to try to deal with the fire, and basically they just protected the houses nearby and let it burn. And I am probably only here because this fire crew happened to be coming back from a call a couple of minutes away when the 911 went out. So, you know, I was in an unimaginable state, shaking and trembling outside, watching this thing burn, because I got outside and and I couldn't even look at what was going on. But I heard the siren, and somebody started laying me down, and it was lights out. But that happened astonishingly fast, and I found out later, it was like within 5 minutes or something. Probably is the reason I'm alive. And this was the culprit. That's the washer and dryer. We had just taken stuff out of the washer and thrown it in the dryer. And the inspectors said they think it was this flexible hose line that may have had apparently some kind of a crack in it that caused a gas leak. Now, part of the reason I'm telling you guys this is it's a public service announcement. I am right now trying to engage the mayor of Piedmont, where I live now, and the fire department, the fire chief, and just seeing if we could imagine some kind of a public service announcement to encourage homeowners, and maybe even business owners, to know about and install these very cheap, extremely effective explosive gas detectors. They're like between $35 and $50. But not many people have ever heard of them. If you guys, who has heard of these devices? Yeah, unfortunately, that's very common. I'm discovering that even a lot of fire professionals aren't really familiar with them. They do not seem to be in building code, which is astonishing to me. I don't even know why that is. But this is different than your smoke detector, and it's different than a carbon monoxide detector. These will alert. It's the tiniest amount of gas in the air. And it's the non-event. You just call, get somebody to come take care of it. Costco, Home Depot, Lowe's, whatever. Any hardware store. You have one in the kitchen? Yeah, so, hey, you know, after what I've been through, I feel I have to urge everybody, please, if you have gas in your home, get a few of these. Put them in places where the gas line comes into the home, where there's some kind of a junction, like between a pipe and a flexible hose line, or at the very least near the appliances where this stuff's going on. I would suggest buying them as gifts and giving them away, because I just can't imagine the gratitude people would feel. Not only a few days after this explosion, my dad and I were caught in, friends of ours, unbeknownst to me, were following the story, and they had just had brand new appliances put in their basement. So they called someone to check it, and they got evacuated because it was in the explosive range. They had no reason to think that. They didn't smell anything. But they credit 5 people being alive just because they heard the story. So I don't mean to dwell on it, but I want to share that with you guys. And this is what happened to me. I was in a coma for about 6 months, and then in the ICU for 3. It was pretty bad. The assessment was 82% of my body was burned. 75% of it is 3rd degree, so that means no hair, no follicles, no sweat glands, no nerves initially. And then they had to do an incredible job of patching me back together with skin grafts. Amazingly, I could feel everything just pretty much like normal. It's astounding. I couldn't believe it when I woke up and they were explaining all this to me. The estimated hospitalization time was 3 months, and they thought I'd probably be in the BICU, the burn ICU, for about 8. And my girlfriend at the time, now fiance, said they were telling them things like, well, he won't use his hands again, and he definitely will never fly. But in reality, the hospitalization was only 3 months. I was out of it in 3 months, which is quite a bit faster. Now, maybe they were padding that, and maybe that's a practice to try to set expectations so people feel like things are going well. But it went a lot faster for me. I bounded back quickly, and here I am at about the 2-month mark. And this is the ICU window I'd look out over Lake Michigan. It was so beautiful. And I remember thinking, holy shit, I'm alive. I can see, I can hear, I can feel. Noah, my partner, she's here. At this point, I was just starting to walk again, which felt like I was on Jupiter. I'd lost a lot of body mass. You lose 3% of your muscle mass every day that you're immobilized. So I was very thin and kind of wobbly. But I knew I can walk, there's hope. And I'd look out this window, and guess what I'd see going by out here? Airplanes on their way to and from Mitchell International. And I was looking at that body of water, and I just sort of set my jaw. I was like, when I get out of here, I am gonna bust my ass studying, recurrent training. I set the goal. I'm gonna be back on that airplane before my anniversary of this accident. But I didn't tell anybody. And I just worked hard at it. Now, this is why I mentioned that aviation is life. I used the love of aviation and the aviators, the people I love to hang out with, who were very supportive when all this happened, as inspiration to just doggedly go for it. Kind of use my heart, just stick with things and fight my way back. And before the anniversary, a couple days before, I did it. This is from my hometown airport, and I flew this course, and it just so happens to look like doing a thumbs up. It seemed fitting. I didn't mean to do that, but. So if you'll indulge me, I'll just share this with you guys to give you a sense of it.
Out of a Fox 6 exclusive, one tough survivor nearly a year ago, 80% of his body was burned in a home explosion.
Can you hear it?
In Washington County. Doctors say it's a miracle he lived. As Sam Kramer reports now, he's determined to be an inspiration.
Right.
When you've been flying for years, the pre-flight checklist is the first key to a smooth flight. But for Frankie Rodolphi,
All set?
just returning to the cockpit provided enough turbulence.
Well, I don't know how many miracles it was, but it was a lot for me to be here and fly the plane again.
Wednesday, Ridolphi flew his plane for the first time since July 20th of last year, marking a significant milestone in his recovery, knowing doctors weren't sure he'd ever fly again.
The entire time, though, I was thinking, yeah, but you don't know Frankie. I know for a fact he's going to make this.
Last July, Frankie flew home early for EAA AirVenture Oshkosh, first spending time with his father, Augie and Barton, to celebrate his birthday. That night ended in tragedy.
Maybe you're an explosion and not injuries.
I yelled out to my dad to say I love you, and then somebody kind of laid me down carefully, and then it was kind of lights out.
They both spent months in a coma on the burn unit at Ascension Columbia St. Mary's, where skin wasn't Frankie's only loss.
And when I woke up, I couldn't do things. I didn't have the strength to take the cap off a tube of chapstick.
Frankie finally made it out of the hospital in October, but in January, another loss. His father, Augie, had died.
I wanted so badly to be able to talk to him about it. Just to say, Dad, what happened? What was that?
Now, every day Frankie still has is an honor to Augie. The flames may have burnt his skin and damaged his muscles, but his soul
I think it lit it on fire.
is always ready for takeoff.
Sometimes life goes your way and sometimes it doesn't. But we can choose how we're going to respond in the toughest situation.
Frankie says he can't say thank you enough to the burn team here at Ascension Columbia St. Mary's. He also comes back to the hospital to speak with other burn victims. Reporting in Milwaukee, Sam Kramer, Fox 6 News.
He is remarkable. Ridolphi is hopeful his skin will fully recover within the next year.
That was a little optimistic. It definitely took a little more than a year. I'm still working on it, but you know, one of the things I did afterward is I did a gratitude tour. I just went around and I made the effort to seek out and figure out all the people in a daisy chain that helped me survive. The neighbor next door who ran out, the lady who called 911, the EMTs, the fire department. I got to meet the Fight for Life crew here, and come on, man. My first helicopter flight, and I didn't even get to know them. I mean, I didn't really get to enjoy it, but it was cool to meet them, right? And it ended up with me going to, not only back to the BICU, which I do annually, and talk with the team there, but I went to Boston where there's a biotech company that grew skin grafts for me from my own tissue samples, and got to meet them. It was really cool. And so when I was ready to make my cross country back to the Bay Area from Wisconsin, my first stop was the BICU. So, get a little choked up talking about it, but I called them up and said, I'm coming. We'll look out the windows in about 15 minutes. And when I got up there, I actually called them from my headset. I had a little Bluetooth to the phone. I called them and I sort of told them thank you, and I tipped my wings to them. There's Nurse Terry, she's the charge nurse that was there when I was there. Somebody caught this picture of her waving to me, and there I am, tipping my wings out the same windows I used to look out of for a while. And aviation is life. You know, I came back and was determined, like, shit, man, when you come back from that, you just want to do everything you've ever thought of that's fun. So I looked around, it's like, how come there's not an EAA chapter in Oakland? So I called them up. Has there ever been one? No? Okay, let's do it. So we started it, and now we got 80-some members signed up. Usually we get between 30 and 40 people that show up at a monthly event. I've been going to AirVenture every year since the accident. Again, I used to do it all the time. And we've got a little girl, Florence, is the fearless flyer. And I got to reconnect with a hero of mine, Bert Rattan. He was giving talks this last year. And I've convinced my friends, my good college friends, to come to Oshkosh and start getting into flying, and they're bringing their families in another week or so. We're all going to meet up there. We rented a house on a lake. And we're just all going to have the families together and have some good times. And so if anybody's interested in seaplanes, the Seaplane Corn Roast, which happens at AirVenture, is kind of the big event of the year. Hundreds, Thursday night, hundreds and hundreds of seaplane pilots all together in one area, hanging out with music, brats, corn, beer, and having a good time. It's really fun. Okay, so that was the intense personal part. I thought I'd tell you a little bit about the airplane itself and why light sports, since there are a lot of different kinds of seaplanes you could fly. Are we doing okay on time? I could kind of expedite this if it's, all right. You guys start yawning, I'll know it's time to quit. So I have this plane called a Super Petrel. A petrel is a bird, a seabird. It's kind of like a seagull, but it's a South American bird. And it's named that because the company that makes the airplane is based in Brazil, Skoda Aeronautica. And they're sold by a distributor in the United States that's in Ormond Beach, Florida, Super Petrel USA. It is, it's been around a while. It started on the market in about 2002. There are a little over 400 worldwide. It's a special light sport. So it's kind of like the equivalent of a certified aircraft, but in the light sport world. And instead of the FAA regulating how things shall be done, it's the manufacturer compliant with ASTM international standards. So actually it's kind of nice. You just have more latitude. You can talk to the company, find out what you need to do, and just do it. It's an amphibian, so I have landing gear, which you can see tucked up under there. It's a biplane, which is unusual now, but was very common in the early days of seaplanes. And it's a pusher, so the engine is pointed backwards. And it's running Rotax engines. Anybody have Rotax engines here? Cool, I got a few. One of the 4 distributors in the United States is in Petaluma. So we're really lucky here to have that resource. I might expedite this, but I'll just give you a little taste. Good timing.
I've got over 400 hours on my Super Petrel now, and I have at least 30 hours, I think, on the Icon 85. There is a noticeable performance difference between the two aircraft. I really noticed it on the water. Super Petrel just leaps right up onto the step. Icon struggles a little bit. It's got that big hull and the sea wings. The other thing I noticed is that maneuverability on the surface of the water is higher performance in the Super Petrel. The build quality of the Super Petrel is fantastic. People constantly tell me, especially mechanics, when they're looking at the details, just the care, the way everything's wired. You know, the stuff you maybe can't see all the time. Very high quality. Love having the Rotax engine. I chose the 914 because I wanted turbo for flying in the California mountains and high altitude lakes. I absolutely love this aircraft. It's meant for my mission. What I want to do is go explore. I've also taken it on long cross countries. I took it from Oshkosh back to the Bay Area in California, and I've done that trip a couple of times. It's wonderful having modern glass avionics and an autopilot. But of course, getting from A to B isn't what this plane is really all about. It's about landing and splashing around in the water and exploring places most planes can't go. That's a huge sense of safety. Gears up for water, indicating fuel pumps on. Landing lights said both fuel pumps are on.
Gears up for water landing.
Like butter. Yeah. First time you take one of your pilot friends who's only landed on runways out to the water, they're just shaking their head. They can't believe it. Just something seems really, really different. I mentioned maneuverability. You had to take off in a relatively tight water environment. Being able to accelerate onto the step around a turn, pretty helpful. And then we'll give it full power and just take off. Now, in addition to the aircraft itself, the Super Petrel company is amazing. The buying process was smooth and easy as buying an airplane could be. They've been responsive and fun and friendly the whole time. Very helpful as I've learned about the aircraft and maintaining it. When I decided to purchase the airplane, the first thing that they said was, well, welcome to the family. And I have to say, it really feels that way. I would only recommend this airplane to a friend if they want to have pure fun, an aircraft that feels safe and has all the amenities. Of course, I'd recommend it. I've got over 400 hours.
Anyway, I'm not selling their aircraft. I don't make money or anything. I really love the plane, and the company's been really great. And it's turned out to be the only company. It's turned out to be the only company currently manufacturing light sport seaplanes. You know, Icon's having some trouble there in Chapter 11. Sea Rays, I don't know what's going to happen with them. C-Max, a variety of them. They're not really making planes. These guys are cranking them out. So let me just highlight a couple of the reasons. Like, if you've never thought about light sport and you've been in the certified world a long time or experimental, you might have a certain perspective on light sport. But one of the things I love about it is the innovation. So here we are with these full glass cockpits and all this tools to, you do your flight planning on an iPad, you hit a button and it just goes into the avionics and you put your iPad away. It's really neat. This plane has wings with an incredibly efficient lift. And maybe the best way to think about it is like a glider. So if you took a glider, a sailplane, and you chopped the wings in half, and took the end of the wing and stuck it underneath. So it's a biplane. That's a lot what this is like. The aspect ratio of the wing is not as long, but that doesn't really tell the whole story. It actually has very efficient lift. And those wings are helpful because you get a lot of ground effect down low. And then of course it blocks water spray up into the propeller, which is really helpful. And it's very strong because it's a box structure with the wings, and the airframe it's all carbon fiber, some Kevlar in the hull, which is extra strong. One thing I really love is the stall resistance. there's something kind of neat about these wings. The lower wings have a slightly higher angle of attack, which means they will stall slightly before the upper wing where the control surfaces are. And the effect of that is, it's like a canard. It just basically, you get a little rumble in your butt when it's getting closer to a stall, and you know, like right before a stall. And it just doesn't want to, you know, you're still flying. It doesn't want to tip. It's controllable. And when you're trying to practice stalls, you really got to work at it to descend. I mean, it mostly stays where it is. It's really neat. And of course, for anybody who knows something about Rotax engines, on paper they might sound like pretty similar to other engines, but they're not. They're designed with innovations all the way through to be really efficient, and they have the highest power to weight ratio out there. Really, really cool little engine. You can run MoGas in these things, you know, which I do. But this maybe is one of the most important innovations. One of the killers in seaplanes is landing with your gear down if you have an amphibious aircraft. And we practice that all the time, we talk about it all the time, and it still happens. And then the plane immediately flips over, and people rarely survive that. But this aircraft, because of the way it's designed, has a bit of a safety feature in that, let's see if this will come up. Somebody made a video inadvertently landing with their gear down in the water. It's a guy with a little kid in the passenger seat. There you go. Basically a non-event, except for his headset flying off. But that's a big deal. That's a really big deal. I don't know if that was intentional, or if it's just an artifact of the design of the aircraft with the way the kind of low center of gravity and the way the wheels are and everything. But it's definitely a useful feature. Now, they have a brand new version of the aircraft, so this is the newest sibling of mine that just came out. They've got about almost 30 of them sold now, and they've delivered 12 of them. 2 of them this last week just arrived in the Bay Area, down in San Carlos, where there's a flight school starting to teach youths to fly using seaplanes. It's going to be awesome. It's part of the Next Gen Flight Academy, which I think exists elsewhere. And if anybody's interested, the Clear Lake Splash-In is going to happen next spring near Lakeport, up on Clear Lake. And I'm trying to help see if we can get those planes up there and get the group talking about training youth. A little bit faster climb rate, 2,000 feet a minute. It's not bad for light sport. 6 hours of endurance. It's got the latest engine from Rotax, so it's 160 horsepower, blah, blah, blah. Show-offs, yeah. A little more power. You go up to 23,000 feet. 5-bladed prop. And everything's just been slightly tweaked. The hull's a little longer, gives a little more stability on the water. The canopy's different. Mine has doors. This one has a canopy that opens up. And so the nose is actually structural, so you can beach the plane, just hop out on the nose and walk off onto the beach. That's kind of neat. They've changed the layout of the cockpit to centralize the controls so that, because so many people are using iPads, and instead of having some janky, thing you stuck the iPad on, stuck to your window or whatever, they just designed the aircraft so there's a place for it, which is kind of a neat idea. And I put this picture in because I had the unbelievable opportunity to spend a weekend with the Rattans up in Idaho just by chance. And do anybody know what this aircraft is?
I think it's his latest design that he was doing he was going to travel the world in it or something.
I hadn't heard that part, but it's intended. It's a seaplane. It's called the Ski Gull, and it's got these it's called a ski gull because it has almost like these little backwards-facing skis instead of wheels or floats. And Bert is extremely innovative. He's done things that nobody thought you could do. And he set out to build a really innovative seaplane with a light sport engine. That's a Rotax engine in there. And I'm not really divulging anything he wouldn't want you to know. He's talked about it at Oshkosh, that he found this to be a complete failure. That it's really, really hard to design an awesome and light seaplane. And so what did he end up buying when he and his wife moved to Idaho? He bought a Super Petrel. It was great. And not only that, he bought the exact one I tried to buy. I tried to buy that aircraft, and somebody else got it before me, and then when they sold it, the Ruttans picked it up. So anyway, I thought that was a testimonial in a way to the quality of the aircraft. By the way, that one's now for sale. I think they've decided they're not going to fly anymore. So if anybody here is starting to feel inspired about flying a seaplane or maybe buying one, talk to me because I can make an introduction if you want to get involved and have a very special seaplane. I don't know exactly, but I'm guessing they typically are selling used for like 160, something like that. Somewhere in there. I mean, the new ones are $289, and then actually, I think the latest ones are over $300 now. Plus, I think there are tariffs on Brazil, so who knows what's going to happen with that. Yeah, but it's not like this thing's only got 300 hours on it, so it's no hours. So I wanted to wrap up, if you guys are still with me, just sharing a very short video I made, inspired by my trip up to Idaho where I met the Ruttans. And I wanted to just try to convey the magic and the spirit of what it's like to fly a seaplane for people who had never had that experience. This is camping out at a place called Kavanaugh Bay. I'm just camping under my wing there, along with all these other pilots who are camping overnight. And it's on this beautiful lake called Priest Lake. Anybody been to Priest Lake? Oh yeah. Can you guys attest? Pretty amazing?
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, don't step on a wasp nest. You'll see at the end of the video, I beach the plane and hop out, or I'm about to hop out. And there's a resort there that has a great restaurant right out by the water. So you can beach your plane, hop out, and then go eat lunch. And everybody at the restaurant's just watching you like, who shows up in a seaplane to go get brunch? What?
Okay, doors. Kavanaugh Bay traffic, way 5 lanes, departing runway 33, Kavanaugh Bay. Low pressure looks good. Full power. Everyone can use this guy's wake. Maybe he just made me a runway.
That's kind of looks like it's like today.
That's awesome.
Happy to answer any questions or if you guys have comments or
So that's considered a light sport? It's not normally the kind of plane I would think about as a light sport. How does that work?
it is. It meets all the criteria. It's 834 pounds. When I pull it out of the hangar, I just kind of lift it up and drag it right out. But I can fit 2 full-grown, normal-sized people in there with full tanks and take off, and it's just fine. And I've done that going up to even Lake Tahoe in the middle of the day, 6,000 feet of altitude, on the water with full tanks and 2 guys, and we powered up. I mean, you could tell the difference. You could feel the difference, but hopped up, did fine.
Any load at all? Useful load?
570 pounds.
Yeah, this one's just a little less than I think because, the new ones have a little more power, a little more oomph. It's not like a plane where you pack a ton of stuff in it, or you're not gonna bring your whole family or anything. But I have done this on cross countries, and I have figured out a little system, as others have too. I've got a backpack, I've got a tent, I've got, you've got all the stuff you need, the stove, and I managed to squirrel it all in there okay. So.
Your awesome backstory. And you say thank you up there with questions, and we thank you. It's just wonderful.
You're welcome.
I have 2 things I want to say. The main one is, I think you're the national ambassador for the Petrel Seaplane. I mean, it's a full-time job if you want. But the other one is the safety one. It has to be about these gas explosions. I built a new house in the county here in the last couple of years. And when I hooked up the new lines for PG&E, our local utility, the couplings from the gas, that when you get past the meter and you're going into the house, has a special device on it. Should there be any shaking, whatever that, and there's always pressure in those lines, then it'll prevent explosion outside the house. So you're talking about something inside the house. So have you dealt with or worked with PG&E to find out if you can broadcast through them what you're doing inside?
Did everybody hear that question? Did you guys hear it? So he was talking about building a house and how there's the automated shutoff valves that are in new construction to kind of protect gas lines, but kind of what they're really doing there is protecting the gas network. So outside of the house, and he's asking about inside, how do you think about that or what the situation is? And look, I think in theory, those are a really good idea. I'm glad they're there. Those shutoffs should be there. Earthquakes are kind of big phenomenon. Our little human ideas about exactly how that's going to go and how well the technology is going to work. So, it probably will help in certain situations for sure, and probably some it won't. But also inside the house, which is where we had a problem, there was no clue that something was wrong. And that line had fractured, and we didn't have a very good sense of smell. And we were in the basement, I didn't smell anything. Now, people were telling me, well, that's because you went out to dinner and you had a fish fry, so that ruins your sense of smell. And my attitude is, okay, even if I accept that that's true, I don't think then that's a very good prophylactic to having the smell. That's not good enough. That's not good enough. If something as simple as that could prevent people from smelling enough and wading into it such that it would explode. It has to be between 4 and 10% of the air volume to do that, to explode. It's a lot.
Well, those devices are in a house similar to an airplane for carbon monoxide.
Yeah, you plug these things in.
And you get them to the house too, because in the newest homes with your detectors for smoke, you have carbon monoxide also.
Yeah,
So what you're thinking about and doing, the device, if PG&E got involved with that, I think it'd be a wonderful thing.
I do too, and I've so far had a hard time with getting gas companies to want to talk about it. They're concerned about liability, obviously. Like if they seem to be recommending something and then it doesn't work, they're looking at it. But I'm playing the long game here, so.
Would you have been able to do that takeoff fully loaded at Lake Tahoe without the turbocharger?
You can, and people do it, but it's a lot harder. I mean, I'm making almost sea level pressure because of the turbo. It's only 115 horses with the turbo. Without it, it's about 100 on the original LS version, light sport version. The XP, which is the new one, extra performance, has got 160 horses. That thing leaps right up.
I have lots of questions about your light sport repairman certificate and the blurb about your talk said you were converting from SLSA to ELSA.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone else is interested, so we might chat a lot afterwards, but I'm part owner of an LSA that's been stuck in a 7-month conditional inspection. And it's just been a horrible experience, but we're very, very interested in converting to ELSA. Can you speak briefly about what's involved?
Oh, sorry to hear that. An annual is not supposed to take, it's not supposed to mean it takes a whole year.
I'm aware.
The reason I wanted a SLSA because I wanted to know that something was done right when it was first put together. Given that I'm not a builder yet, I didn't have that level of experience. There are things you can do, privileges by being experimental, that you're just not going to get if you're relying on the manufacturer to approve something. So for my case, I decided I wanted to install an aftermarket fuel injection kit, which from my standpoint will make it more reliable. It's going to reduce the maintenance. Carburetors on these engines are kind of tedious to maintain. I'll get a little more efficiency, almost 30%. That's a safety factor in traveling cross country. And a little bit more power. So to do that, I just convert to experimental, and then I'm free to do that. I don't need a letter of authorization from the company. So I'm going through the process and educating myself for the first time, but I'm documenting it. So I made a big checklist, doing research on what you need to do, because surprise, surprise, it's not clear when you look at the FAA website, how the heck do you do this? And when I'm done, I'm hoping to put together a little talk and share that with my chapter, but whatever I come up with, I'm happy to share with you guys too, if anybody's interested. Did that answer the question, or?
Yeah, I was just wondering how involved was the process of converting to ELSA?
So far, no big deal. A little bit of filling out some simple paperwork, and there's an application you go through. It's online. You check all the boxes and explain what you're doing, what the aircraft is, and why. And then I'm going to be meeting with a designated airworthiness representative who will look at the plane after I do my next annual, after we install the injection kit. And he's going to go through and check everything, make sure it's got a POH, make sure it's got experimental on it, and a couple other things. And he signs it off. All of a sudden, I get a new certificate, airworthiness certificate. Then I'm going to be limited to 5 hours of flight testing within a radius of the airport. It'll be Petaluma. After that, I'm free to fly. Yeah, I'll be there. Yeah, bringing family and a couple of friends, and
This is more for everybody. This is about your.
Let me just finish this question real quick.
Yeah.
No, I'm not exhibiting. I'm just a guy. Going there to have fun and bring some friends and family, but I'll try to go to the Seaplane folks at the Seaplane base. Have anybody been to the Seaplane base at Oshkosh? Oh, it's so cool. It's a totally different vibe. It's really chill, and you got all these trees around. It's really pretty.
I just want to go back to something that was a big thing in your life, and everybody heard about the dryer, the gas, all of that. I have a background in some other stuff, but did an arson investigator take a look at the dryer to see that it wasn't a malfunction, because there's a high heat sensor on those. I've repaired a lot of dryers. I own some property, and I'm an ex-fireman as well, so I'm very sensitive to that. And not only do the exhaust vents get clogged up with a lot of soot, also in the back of the dryer where it comes out before it goes into the exhaust hose, there's a ducting back there. And I've taken probably 100 dryers apart, and those things just fill up with crap. And then there's a high heat sensor, and if that doesn't work and shut off your dryer, that could lead to the fire, which could have involved the gas line. So I don't know if it was a chicken or an egg thing first with your situation, but just for everybody here that heard about that and was listening to it, check out your dryers at home. Make sure they're clean, the exhaust out is clean.
That's
the inside of the dryer is clean, because there's ducting and that has
It's a very good point now, and the truth is, I don't know, and I'll probably never know. I tried really hard to get a more thorough investigation. My take on it was I was getting kind of people seem to have kind of preordained ideas about what this was, and we're trying to get the paperwork done and get it out the door. And I wanted to have a more thorough investigation of that for a number of reasons. But the way things played out, it just wasn't possible, and then the site got raised. But I will say this, the experience was nothing like something overheated and something caught fire, and it was nothing like that. It was much more like an IED. My dad leaned over to turn on, press the button, and we were completely engulfed in like a blast. As I spun to run away, in kind of a fight or flight response, I did glance like this up over my shoulder, and I don't know why. I guess even then, curiosity about what the hell was happening. And I saw the joists in the ceiling. They had burst into flame. Instantly. And I found I don't have it in this talk, sometimes I give talks to other groups, like medical groups or whatever. I have a research that shows experimental analysis of these blasts, what they're like. And there's in about a half a second, it flashes up to 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit, and then drops back off again. So it's not really a fire, it's more like a sudden flash, a superheated flash. And anyway, there's a lot of things that could go wrong, but if you have a gas alert in there, it's gonna catch that long before you can have an issue. Yeah. Thanks for indulging me in that. You guys are my first aviation group to share that personal stuff with. And I hope it didn't go too far off course, and I appreciate your listening.